Yo, yo, yo. What's good, everybody? Thanks for tuning in into DFJ Hoops again. As always, I'm your host, Andre, and I haven't been live in a few days, but we got some time. So I got a great topic, a great show. Hope you guys enjoy it. As soon as you come in, please make sure you hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and don't forget to hit the bell notification icon as well to give you notifications every time we post videos on this channel or go live. Let's get right into it. I got a great topic here. What would it take the Philadelphia 76ers to be successful this upcoming season? That's what we're going to talk about. But a couple days ago, the NBA released the schedules for every team. So the Sixers schedule is out now. So I'm gonna do a brief reaction to it. I'm not. It's not even going to take that much time. Let's just get right into this. Let's talk about the schedule real quick. So the 76ers will open this season by hosting the Milwaukee Bucks, who they played against in the first game of last season, right? They played the Milwaukee Bucks in Milwaukee in that first game where they had a chance to win that game, but Giannis posted up Embiid, and he attempted a shot, missed it, he airballed it, and then caught his own miss and kicked it out to Damian Lillard, and he made the three. And that right there, that play right there, kind of like it ended the game for the Sixers. They had a chance to win it, but that bad call was not called, so they ended up losing that game right there. But so they start the season off the same way as they did last season with the first two games, right? They played Milwaukee and they played Toronto the 2023-2024 season. And this season, the 24-25 season, they're going to play Milwaukee and they're going to play the Toronto Raptors at Toronto as well. So the first two games is the same as it was last season. So that's that. And then they take on Indiana. They take on Detroit. Now, Detroit is going to be a lot better than what they were last season. Memphis as well. Memphis had a lot of injuries throughout the course of last season. So most of these teams are going to be a lot better than people expect them to be. They're not going to be as trash. Detroit's definitely going to win more games. Let me just share my screen right here. Detroit is definitely going to win more games than they did last year. I think they won like 15, 16 games or maybe 14 games last season. But it's going to be way different next season, and they're not going to be any pushover, right? Let me share my screen right here. And yeah, so there y'all see it. Indiana, Detroit, Memphis, and then Phoenix. The Phoenix Suns in Phoenix, and then so right after the Detroit game, they're gonna. I mean, yeah, right after the Memphis game, they're gonna go on a West Coast trip, right, early in the season to take on the LA Clippers, right? So Paul George will be going up against his former team, the the LA Clippers. They'll be hosting the Sixers in the new arena, the Intuit Dome, who I think that's the best arena in the NBA. So they'll play the Clippers, they'll play the Lakers, and so yeah, they take on Phoenix, the Clippers, and then the Lakers, and then they come back to take on the Charlotte Hornets, and they'll take on the New York Knicks for the first time since the playoffs on November 12th. Now, I think that game is the in-season tournament game, right? So that would be the first game of the in-season tournament. I think the Sixers are in the same pool as the Brooklyn Nets, the Orlando Magic, and the Charlotte Hornets. So they're going to take on they're going to take on those teams. So the Charlotte Hornets is right above the New York Knicks. So that will be the first in-season tournament game, and then the Knicks, and then they'll take on Cleveland, right? So Cleveland is right here. So TuneIn Sports will be taking on November 13th. I might call that game. I mean, I will call that game. So and that will be the first back-to-back that I see over here. So the Sixers to start the season, their schedule is not that easy. It's not difficult. It's not easy. In my opinion, I think it's in the middle. So these are teams that the Sixers will have to face. And then, let me just skip over to Christmas Day where they will be taking on the Boston Celtics. So this will be the first game, the first matchup of the season, right? I mean, if you're a Sixer fan, if you've been following the Sixers for a very long time, the Sixers play the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Toronto Raptors. They play them 4 times every season because they're in the same division. In case you didn't know that, yeah, that's why. So they'll take on the Boston Celtics for the first time in Boston on Christmas Day, and then they'll have a 3-day rest, and then they take on the Utah Jazz, the Portland Trail Blazers, the Sacramento Kings, the Golden State Warriors, and the Brooklyn Nets. So these will all be road games, right? And then they head into the next they head into next year, and they'll face a whole bunch of teams over here. So I'm not gonna go through each one, but yeah, I get the gist of it. Me personally, I like the schedule, and I heard people complaining about it. Oh, this schedule is not as good as last season. They have more back to backs than last. Just stop complaining. Just stop complaining. The Sixers, they got this, and in my opinion, I think this roster is very very favorable. In my opinion, I think it's very very favorable, and it's just the back to backs is what has people very, very concerned because they're concerned with Embiid. But we got Embiid has to be in better shape, better playing shape, matter of fact, and has to take each and every game very, very serious and has to be committed for the course of the season next year. As y'all come in, hit the like button. Hit the like button as y'all come in. So yeah, that's the schedule for next season. They take on the Bucks, and I think the last game will be the Chicago Bulls. So Andre Drummond will be taking on his former team. The last game, I mean, that'll be the last matchup. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad the schedule came out early, so I know what my own personal schedule looks like for this upcoming season. Now let's get into this topic right here. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this topic right here. Let me stop sharing my screen. There we go. Okay, so what would it take the Philadelphia 76ers to be successful this upcoming season? So, as we all know, the Sixers are being looked at as one of the top contenders in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, you have the Boston Celtics. People might put the Knicks in there, right? I mean, people put the Knicks over the Sixers, which I have the Sixers over the Knicks, but that's a conversation for another time. But in the Eastern Conference, the what you call it, the top contenders in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks, the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, some people might say Miami because you never know. I mean, they could, catch you off guard, and then the next thing you know, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals or they're in the NBA Finals. So, but I think the Sixers is one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and they'll definitely be in championship contention, right? I think Vegas has them as one of the top 5 teams to win the championship next year. So yeah, the Sixers are definitely one of the top contenders in the Eastern Conference and one of the championship contenders in the NBA. But what would it take for the Sixers to be successful? Now, what I mean by successful is winning everything, right? Winning the championship, winning your conference, coming out of your conference, and winning the whole thing. I mean, people might consider getting to the conference finals as a success, but me personally, I think winning it all should be the success. I don't praise losing, and every time you don't win the championship, the season, in my opinion, was a failure. So that's that. But in terms of what it would take for the Sixers to be successful this season, I think it'll take a lot, right? It would take a lot, and everybody knows that no team wakes up and just finds itself in the NBA Finals and you're winning the championship. In order to win a championship, there's a lot that goes into that process. It starts in the off season, right? Putting the work in, working on your body, working on your game, and sometimes when it comes down to it, your players have to step up in crucial moments, right? Players have to step up. The coaches have to, do what's best for the team and put the right pieces on the court at the right time. You feel me? So, but me personally, I think the first thing that the Sixers will have to, take into consideration, I think the first and most important thing is health, right? The Sixers have to be healthy. Players have to be healthy in order for this whole thing to be a success, right? When I say the whole thing, I mean winning the championship, going to the finals and winning the championship. You have to be healthy. And over the last 2 or 3 years, health has been a deciding factor on who wins the championship, right? The team that's the most healthiest ends up winning the NBA championship. I mean, we can go to past seasons where people thought or people believe that if this team wasn't hurt, they probably could have won this championship. If that team wasn't hurt, they probably could have won that championship. And a quick example is the LA Clippers in 2021. right? They were on a phenomenal run, right? Kawhi Leonard was playing like crazy. He was playing out of his mind, and the whole Clippers team, they were playing great. And then they get to the second round, and then in Game 4, Kawhi Leonard, he suffers an ACL tear, right? So it derailed the LA Clippers title title hopes. And with him going down, people felt like that right there. If he was healthy, they probably could have won that championship. Now, the same argument could be made for the Brooklyn Nets in that same season, 2020-2021 season, where Kyrie Irving goes down in Game 4 in the in the conference final semis, in the conference semis, right? They play the Milwaukee Bucks. Kyrie went for a layup and ends up, landed on Giannis's foot, and he turns his ankle. And people believe that had Kyrie been healthy, they probably could have won the NBA championship because they were playing at a great level as well. KD was playing. I think at that point, KD was the best player in the league. James Harden was playing great. Kyrie was playing great. That whole Brooklyn team was clicking, right? So people felt like had he not gotten hurt, they probably would have had a chance to win the championship, and that could be true. So me personally, I think the first and most important thing is guys have to be healthy. Now, there's a lot that goes into trying to stay healthy. Now, some injuries are out of a player's control, right? Some injuries are out of your control. There's nothing you could do to stop it from happening. But other injuries could be prevented, right? You can't just walk into the basketball court and just windmill dunking, just shooting, running up and down the floor. You might risk pulling a hamstring, a quad muscle, a calf muscle, or anything, right? So guys have to take their health very, very seriously, and you can't just eat anything. People take diet for granted, but diet really, really, if you really want to be healthy, you have to watch what you eat. You have to watch what you put in your body. I remember, a few years ago, Paul George missed a game because he because the night before he drank so much caffeine, right? So that right there can't be happening. If you really want to win a championship, you have to be locked in. You have to take care of your body. You have to take care of your health, and you got to watch what you eat. And Embiid, now you're in your 30s, and you can't get away with eating whatever you want, right? You can't just put junk in your body and expect to stay healthy for the course of a season. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a cheat day, but it can't be consistently. You can't be eating junk consistently because your diet is really, really important if you really want to stay healthy, right? So eating a Big Mac before the game starts, and B, that's not going to help you. And I'm not trying to put him on the I'm not trying to go at Embiid or anything, but I just think that certain things he was doing in the past, he has to watch his habits. And I think I saw an article that says Paul George was talking to him about his diet, his health, which that was great. I definitely love seeing. Excuse me, I love seeing stuff like that. So Embiid has to take his health very, very seriously. Paul George as well, and not just these two players, but everybody else. They got to watch what they eat. They got to work out with the strength and conditioning team, and they got to put the work in, right? Because the journey to winning the championship, it doesn't start when the season starts. It starts in the off season, right? What you do in the off season, how you get prepared for it, your workouts, your diet, everything. That's how it starts. When you really want to win a championship, so they have to take their health very, very seriously. And like I said, some injuries cannot be prevented, but some can be prevented, right? An example, like I said, you can't just walk onto the basketball court and you're just shooting, running up and down the floor, and dunking without stretching, right? You have to stretch, you have to let loose, you have to get your body ready for the activity that you're about to get into. So injuries like that, pulling your muscle, pulling a calf strain, like those could be prevented if you get your body ready for the activity that you're about to get into. Now, sometimes you could still stretch and do everything, and you still have an injury like that. That's out of your control. And injuries like somebody falling onto your knees, like Jonathan Kaminga landed on Embiid's his left knee, and he ended up tearing his meniscus. That wasn't in his control, right? You can't really control injuries like that. And maybe going up for a rebound and then you land on somebody's foot and then you end up spraining your ankle. Like injuries like that, you can't really it's not really in your control, but certain injuries could be prevented, right? And like I said, getting your body ready for the activity that you're about to get into. Watching what you eat, what you put in your body, making sure you stay fully hydrated. All that, really, really matters if you really want to stay healthy for the course of a season and the postseason, because it's going to be a long season, and in the process of it being a long season, you have to do what's necessary. You have to do what's right for your body. You have to do what's right for the team, and you got to listen to your coaches to be successful. So I think number one is health, and I just talked about, I just broke everything down. Number one is health. Number two, I would say trust. Right. Number two is trust. Everybody has to have trust in each other. And this is where I have to speak on Nick Nurse. So Nick Nurse, in my opinion, one of the top coaches in the NBA. I would say he's a top 10 head coach. People might say top five, but I'll say top 10, right? I'll give him top 10. And I believe he's one of the best coaches. I mean, he's won a championship. He won a championship his first season as a head coach, right? But these past playoffs, some of his decision making, some of the rotations had me really questioning what he's doing. Right now, I'm not saying he doesn't know what he's doing, but I mean, not playing certain players and overplaying certain players, I really question that. Right, and that brings me down to Ricky Council the fourth. Now, yeah, I do understand that Ricky Council he's a rookie, right? He's a rookie player, undrafted, and he has to prove himself in order to earn Nick Nurse's trust. So I get that, right? You have to prove yourself. And me personally, I think he has proven himself. Now, I'm not saying he's a top NBA player, but he's proven himself to, be a decent NBA player who, if you give him, consistent minutes in the regular season, he can definitely give you some decent production. I mean, his game, like I've broken down his game multiple times. Like he's not a great shooter, right? He's been working on it. He's not a great shooter, but I mean, he can definitely be a 38% 3-point shooter, and that's way above league average, right? Now, he's a good rebounder for his size. He's a good rebounder, and he generates a lot of rim pressure going down low. And that's one thing that I really like, because last year's team, you didn't really have a lot of players who could generate that kind of rim pressure. Apart from Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, and just to name a few. I mean, that was about it. Tobias Harris is not going to put pressure on the rim. That's not his game. But this dude right here is going to do that. And I felt like him not getting any minutes in the postseason, I kind of really question that, because Ricky Council does, or he can do what the Sixers need, right? Generate rim pressure, be a good or quality rebounder, and also play elite perimeter defense. Now, I'm not saying he's one of the best defenders in the league, but watching him in the G League, watching him this past summer league. Now, I mean, I know those are not the elite, players in those kind of leagues, right? It's not elite. Like, the talent in the G League is not the same talent in the NBA. The talent in the NBA is way too much, right? And the talent in the summer league is not the same as the talent in the NBA. But I mean, we've seen he gave you flashes of him being a him being a good defender, right? He's given you that. He's shown you that consistently, right? And he's shown that he could definitely generate rim pressure. He can get quality rebounds, and he can do almost everything on the floor. He can do the dirty work, right? Deflection, steals, being in the passing lanes. Yeah, he's shown you that he could do that. So I think Nick Nurse has to trust his personnel, especially with the young guys. Now, people might say Jared McCain, which, I mean, Jared McCain, I don't really. Man, this is gonna be very, very difficult for me. Sorry about that, y'all. But I mean, Jared McCain, yeah, he's a rookie, and I think what Ricky Council went through, I think Jared McCain has to go through the same thing as well. He has to prove that he belongs here. He has to earn Nick Nurse's trust, and he has to make shots, because that's what he does. He's a quality shooter. He spreads the floor, knock down big shots, and he can also generate rim pressure. But the only thing is that he's too undersized, right? He's only a 6'1", 6'2", so there's so much he could do defensively. But offensively, he can give you something if he's hot. But if he's not hot, he's not really giving you anything. But Ricky Council here, if he's not having a good offensive game, you can definitely count on him to do something defensively for you. right? He can grab rebounds. He can play perimeter defense. He can get steals and be in the passing lanes and get deflections and stuff like that. So I think Nick Nurse has to trust his personnel, especially some of these young guys. He has to trust them, give them some quality time, and not overplay his veteran players. And I think that's where the trust comes in, and the players also have to trust one another, right? Embiid has to trust his teammates. Maxey has to trust his teammates, and definitely Paul George has to trust his teammates as well, right? So everybody has to trust each other. Everybody has to have each other's back. If you don't trust your teammates, you're not going to be successful, right? The Boston Celtics that just won a championship this past season, Jason Tatum trusted his personnel, right? You saw him a lot. You saw them a lot. All those dribble drives and kickouts and dish offs like that. They trusted their personnel to make shots, and guess what? They made shots when it counted. So you cannot be selfish all the time and expect to win a championship. It don't work like that. You gotta trust your teammates. You gotta trust your personnel, and you have to trust whoever you're playing with, right? If you are getting double teamed and you have to make the right play, you have to make the right play. So I'm saying this to say that Embiid shouldn't hold on to the ball that much, right? If you're holding on to the ball and you know there's a teammate open, just make that pass or make that 1-2 pass to get it to the open teammate, and let's see what we could get, right? Because you holding on to the ball too much in the past has not been successful for the team, and as a result, you end up turning the ball over many times, right? You end up turning the ball over many times, and I can point out to games, especially important games that the Sixers had to win, but because Embiid didn't trust his personnel and a lot of turnovers, the Sixers ended up losing that game. Right now, it's not fully Embiid's fault, but I mean, I think he contributed to that. Right, so Embiid has to trust his personnel. Maxey has to trust his personnel as well. Right, personnel as well. Maxey has to trust his teammates. Sometimes, some teammates could be open, but you can see Maxey doesn't trust them, and he believes he could make shots like that. But I mean, Maxey shooting over 2 or 3 guys, that's not going to be a recipe for success. You definitely have to trust your teammates. Yeah, just give them wide open looks because Maxey himself, you command a lot of attention, and in the process of you commanding a lot of attention, some of your teammates are going to be open, right? Caleb Martin could be open. Kelly Oubre could be open, and other guys could be open. So Maxey has to also trust his teammates as well, and not always look to get to the basket when the defense collapses. Right, when the defense collapses, that's your opportunity to kick the ball out and find some open shooters. And I think this season we have we have some good shooters on this team. It's not as terrible last season. I mean, last season we had good shooters as well, right? DeAnthony Melton, Buddy Hield, and a few others. We had good shooters as well, but I think we have the same amount of shooters on this team this year as well. So um, the trust, it goes a long way, and it starts from the top, right? It starts from the coaching staff, right? It starts from the coaching staff, Nick Nurse and Bobby Jackson and Rico Hines, the entire coaching staff. That's where it starts for. I mean, that's where it starts from. So it starts from there, and then it comes all the way down to the players, right? To the best players, the second best players, the third best players, and then everybody else. So Embiid, Maxey, George, y'all gonna have to trust y'all teammates if y'all really want to be successful this season, right? Trust one another, help one another out, and don't expect one person to do every single thing. Don't expect Embiid to be the sole rebound on the team. Don't expect Maxey to be the sole scorer on the team. Like it should be, we should help each other out, right? Because it takes a team to win a championship. No individual player has ever won a championship, and no individual player will ever by himself win a championship. So that's my second. That's my second point. Now the third point is the players have to buy in. Now, what do I mean by the players have to buy in? Um, in order to win a championship, every player has to listen to the coach and whatever role that the coach wants you to play, that's the role you're gonna have to play. And especially with Nick Nurse being a championship head coach, he definitely knows what he's talking about, right? He's been on the I mean, he's won on the highest level, right? I mean, Nick Nurse is a winner on all levels. I mean, I don't know if he won in college, but he's won in the NBA. He won in the G League. He won overseas, so he's a winner. So he knows what the hell he's talking about most of the time. That's why I don't really like going at coaches because I mean Nick Nurse, you absolutely know what you're doing. So I don't like criticizing him that much because he knows more than me. He knows more than I do. But to the players, and I'm saying this because we've had a few players come out, recently saying the coach wanted me to do this, and he told me to go stand in the corner. Kristaps Porzingis, right? The coach told you to stand in the corner because at the time you were shooting 16% from mid range. 7'4", and you were shooting 16% from mid range. That's why he told you to go stand in the corner because you were more effective in the corner than you were on the block. That's just by the way. But yeah, and we heard Paul George also say that. I mean, Doc Rivers wanted me to be a Ray Allen type player, and even though that's my game, I could do that, but I need the ball in my hands more. I mean, me personally, I think the coach knows more than the players, right? The coaches know what's best more than the players. So 9 times out of 10, the players have to listen to the coaches. Now, I'm not saying that as a player you cannot correct the head coach. You can. If you feel like he's doing something that's not really good, you could definitely point out you can definitely point that out to him. But most of the time, players have to listen to the coaches. If you don't listen to your head coach, you're not going to be successful. And whatever role that the head coach wants you to play, that's the role that you gotta play. If you got to be a scorer, when you get your opportunity, guess what? You put the ball in the hoop. If you got to be a defender and he gives you an assignment on a given night, you have to be willing to carry that assignment out to the fullest. Right, you have to do it to the best of your abilities. If your assignment is to rebound the basketball and prevent guys from getting second chance opportunities, that's what you got to do, right? And I think Nick Nurse is definitely gonna have he's definitely gonna have roles for everybody. I mean, everybody has a role, right? Everybody is a role player, right? So the 3 best players are going to have their role. Maxi's going to have his role. Embiid, to score, rebound, use his scoring gravity to create, mismatches and scoring opportunities for his teammates. Right? We get that. Maxi, use your quickness, use your speed to get to the basket, score when you have the opportunity, facilitate the offense, initiate the offense. That would be his role. And Paul George is a 2-way player, so we already know what his role is going to be like, right? Score the basketball when you get the opportunity. Be an elite shooter, right? Because Paul George shot 45% on catch and shoot threes, right? So do that. Play defense. Paul George, like I said, is a 2-way player. So play defense 2 ways, right? Also rebound the basketball as well, right? I think Paul George averaged like 6 rebounds last season for the Clippers. So rebound the basketball as well, right? Just do everything. Just fill out the blanks. And the role players, they're also going to have their roles, right? Whoever comes off the bench, be a scoring punch off the bench, facilitate the offense. Kyle Lowry, I mean, you're the oldest on this team, right? You're probably one of the few players on this team that's won a championship. So you're going to have to use your experience. You're going to have to use your leadership to help lead this team in the right direction, right? So that would be his role. That would be Kyle Lowry's role. And, Caleb Martin, I mean, you've been in you've played in big games throughout your career. Played in the NBA Finals, played in the Game 7 against the Boston Celtics. We know what you're capable of doing. Playing defense, knocking down big shots, right? And filling in the blanks on the floor every single time. And not being a detriment to your team. I mean, I don't think Caleb Martin is a detriment to his team. So, that's that. And then Kelly Oubre, what you did last season, stepping up in big moments, playing defense, rebounding, scoring when you have the opportunity to, generating rim pressure. That's going to be his. That's going to be his role. Now, I'm not saying this. I'm not giving the players your own roles. I mean, I'm just suggesting, like, I can possibly see these players playing these roles on this team, right? And obviously the coach knows more than me, so I'm gonna let Nick Nurse take care of that. and we'll see what happens. Yeah, as y'all come and smash the like button. Shout out to the realist in the chat. I appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you for being in here. Salute, salute, salute. Shout out to my guy Mike Sports Vibes. Appreciate you for being on, bro. He says, "Yo, bull, go Sixers. We're winning the championship, bro." I believe it, but things have to be in place. The measures have to be put in place in order to win, and that's what I'm trying to I want to make clear. But shout out to my guy Mike Sports Vibes. We had a show last Sunday. We talked about the Sixers and Embiid and the Olympics, and we got into a little bit of a argument on Rudy Gobert, but that was just that was just that. But shout out to Mike Sports Vibes. Appreciate you for being in here. So yeah, the players have to buy in, and my fourth point is players have to step up in big moments. Now, here's where I would have to start with this dude. Now, I don't subscribe to the pandemic P logic. Every player has had a series or a playoff series where they played terrible, right? You can name a player. I can name a playoff series that they were terrible in, right? And this dude on the screen, yeah, he's definitely had his fair shares of bad playoff series. Example like the in the bubble against the Dallas Mavericks. That was probably one of the worst playoff series I've ever seen PG play in. And against Utah in Game 6, he had one of his terrible games ever. But he said he was injured, so I never question anybody's injuries. At the time, I had no idea that he was hurt, right? So you give him a pass for that because he was dealing with injuries, a torn meniscus. That's always serious, right? So you can only commend guys who play through injury. So we'll give PG, we'll give him a pass. But this time around, we can't have PG. We can't have you being in your head and underperforming, right? I don't like to say choke. I think players underperform. I don't use choke. You know what I'm saying? No player. You choke in a moment, but you don't choke. A whole series. Players have choking moments. You feel me? Players have choking moments, just like Magic Johnson had a choking moment in 1984, dribbling out the shot clock in Game 2. Right? His basketball IQ went into the garbage can that time, so that was a choking moment. But he didn't choke the entire series. No. So with PG, and I'm not gonna make any excuses. PG underperformed last playoffs. Right? He underperformed against the Mavericks in the first round. I expected him to be a lot better, especially with Kawhi Leonard being out. But PG did not, in my opinion, he did not step up to be the player that I expected him to be. Right? He didn't step up. His averages went down in the playoffs, and he played terrible. But again, I don't know if he was dealing with any injuries. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna even but I'm not gonna make any excuses either. If you're on this team, we definitely want to see you be successful. We definitely want to see you step up in big moments. And let's not sit here and act like we haven't seen PG ball out in the playoffs, right? We've seen him do that. We've seen him had multiple games where he came up huge for his teams, right? In Game 5 against the Utah Jazz, we saw him drop 37 and 16 points, and he made the clutch shot. It was a clutch shot, but that was kind of like the dagger. It was not a game winner, but it was like the all right, this is a go ahead bucket, right? That's what it was. And we saw him shine in moments like that. And then in Game 6, they closed it out on their home floor. So he did what he was supposed to do as the guy. So PG, as much as some people want to criticize him for having terrible games in the playoffs, he's had moments where he balled out in the playoffs as well. So if you're going to criticize him for not showing up, you definitely have to give him credit when he shows up in the playoffs. And even in last season, last playoffs, when I said he underperformed, there are certain games where he did go off, and there are certain games where he was in foul trouble. So if you're in foul trouble, there's so much that you can do to affect the outcome of a game. Shout out to the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. Appreciate you for being in here, BJ. Appreciate you. Mike Sports Vibe said it's not an argument, bro, but definitely a debate. Yeah. BJ says he was dealing with no Kawhi Leonard. He's had one. He's had one bad playoff run in the bubble in 15 seasons, and that's the bubble. As long as your team is healthy, Philly will be fine. And yeah, BJ, I absolutely agree. And one of my first points was that the teams have to be healthy. I know you just came in, but health is one of the biggest, one of the biggest and most main things if you really want to be successful, right? So you have to be healthy. The teams that are the most healthiest have the better chance to win the championship. So yeah, I definitely I spoke on health. So yeah, but BJ, I also agree with what you just said. I mean, he's had one bad playoff run, right? That is true. But he's had playoff games or playoff series that he showed up, right? He played, excuse me, he played great, but sometimes the teams just lost. Why? Because they didn't have good talent on the team, right? And sometimes the teams that he was just going up against was just better than his teams. So if you want to bash him for not showing up, you definitely have to give him credit for showing up. And PG on this team, I'm going to trust him. And the reason why is that he's not going to be the definitive best player or first best player slash first options on his team, right? There are certain nights where he would have to be the best player because maybe he has the maybe he's the hottest man. He got the hottest hand. So you have to feed a hot hand every single time. Just like we just saw Team USA do in the gold medal game when Steph Curry got hot, right? They gave him the ball, he closed it out. And PG definitely has the ability to close games. I have seen him close games, right? I've seen him close games in the playoffs in the regular season. We've seen him do that. So it's not going to be anything new for him, but my whole thing is he has to step up in big moments. He has to step up in big moments. And if he doesn't, I mean, the Philly crowd are definitely going to be on him. So I think PG definitely knows what he's dealing with, and I think with him being on this team, if certain nights you can be the third option, certain nights you can be the second option, and certain nights you can be the first option, that really helps you a lot. It really helps you a lot. And that reminds me of, Drew Holiday, right? Now I know I'm not comparing Drew Holiday to PG, right? PG is a better player than Drew Holiday, but I'm bringing up Drew Holiday. Yeah, I'm bringing up Drew Holiday because when he was on Milwaukee and Chris Middleton went down and he had to step up and be the second option, we saw what that looked like, right? Against the Celtics, inconsistent in that series. Against Miami, inconsistent offensively in that series, right? But he goes to the Boston Celtics. On certain nights, he's the fourth option. On certain nights, he's the second option. On certain nights, he's the third option. Look what happens. Successful, right? So looking at PG and putting PG in the same position where on certain nights he could be, your best player. Certain nights he could be the second best player, or maybe even the third best player. I think PG would definitely see the best come from him. We'll see. We'll see him at his best. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be, prime Paul George. I don't think he's in his prime anymore. But he's still formidable. He's still a good player. He's still an all-star caliber player. So we definitely expect him to be great, right? In whatever role that Nick Nurse wants him to play. If Nick Nurse thinks he'll be better as a second option, okay, cool. If he thinks he's going to be better as a third option, okay, cool. I'll rock with that. But PG still has to show up in big moments, right? You have to show up in big moments, and there's not going to be any excuses. We're not going to make any excuses. Now, if you're hurt, yeah, we could understand that. But like I said again, the journey to winning a championship starts in the off season. You got to eat right. You got to work on your body, work on your game, and watch whatever you put in your body. Because sometimes what you eat ends up hurting you in the long run. Now you may think it's nothing, but it definitely is something, right? So like I said, and with my first point with the health thing, guys have to watch what they eat. Guys have to get their bodies ready for a long season, because if you want to win a championship, it's going to be a long season, and it might take up to 21, 22, 23 games in the postseason. So guys have to get ready, but at the same time, PG has to step up. Now, second player on this list, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid. Um, Now the last postseason against the Knicks, we saw Embiid, step up. He played great, even though he was hurt. Right, he came from a was it 6 or 7 weeks from his surgery, and he was dealing with Bell's palsy, which that was funny. But we saw him play. He played at Joel Embiid standards, but the thing is, he wasn't at 100%. Right, he played great. Led the playoffs in scoring. I know it was one round, but he still led the playoffs in scoring averages. I think with 33 points per game. Right, so we saw him perform. Now the thing with Embiid is every time he gets in the postseason, he gets hurt. So you don't get to see him at his best, right? But hopefully he can stay healthy this season, and hopefully we can see what that looks like. If Embiid plays at the level that he played at against the Knicks, the Sixers will be fine, right? The Sixers will be fine, and this whole notion of Embiid being a playoff dropper, it would all go in a garbage can, right? It would all go in a trash can because there's no such thing as a playoff dropper. If you can, help your team, if you can help your team win games, win playoff series, and make deep postseason runs, there's no such thing as being a playoff dropper. Now we see that that's been the that's been the what you call it. That's been the main thing on Embiid, that he's a playoff dropper. But I mean, this past playoffs, he showed us that he can definitely show up huge for his teams. So we're definitely expecting to do the same thing, and hopefully he'll be healthy for a deep postseason run, and then we can see what that looks like. Um, the Pull Up Basketball Podcast says you're gonna see him be motivated this year, and I see Philly crowd being good for him, showing him tough brotherly love. I agree with this. I agree. I agree. I agree. I think he's definitely, because I mean PG wants to win a championship, right? He's in year fifth. Yeah, he's heading into year 15, and you want to win a championship when you get the opportunity to, because nobody knows what could happen in the next few years. So the opportunity you get, you capitalize on it, and I think the Sixers have a great chance. Right, the Sixers have a great chance, and it's going to take a team effort to actually win a championship. So with PG being the most motivated as he's ever been this upcoming season, and Tyrese Maxey, taking a leap every single year, and with Embiid being Embiid, this team could definitely be successful. But I mean, these reasons have to go. Things have to be put in place in order for this to happen. The realist says, "BJ, stop it." Man, y'all funny. What you call it? The realist is he's still pissed off that PG left. But yeah, it's all good. Yeah, it's all good though. Oh my goodness. Man, y'all funny. Oh man. Yeah, so I'm getting into my last point. And yeah, as y'all come in, please make sure you hit the like button. Hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It's DFJ Hoops. As I get into my last point, um, yeah, the real is you. Yeah, that's funny. But my last point is players have to sacrifice, right? Players have to sacrifice. And that starts with this guy on the screen right here. And not just him, but everybody on the team. Everybody has to sacrifice, right? Maxi will have to sacrifice. Oubre will have to sacrifice. PG will have to sacrifice. Caleb Martin will have to sacrifice. Everybody's going to have to make a sacrifice. Now, what do I mean by sacrifice? So let me start with Embiid. Embiid averaged I mean, he almost averaged 35 last season before he got hurt. So, but he's not gonna have to. He's not gonna have to score a lot of points in the regular season this upcoming season, right? So that's where the sacrifice comes in. You have to take less shots and do other things on the floor that the team needs. So if you got to increase your rebounding, if you got to give up a little bit of offense to give us more rebounds, I suggest you do that, right? I suggest you do that. And Embiid is a good rebounder, right? Embiid is a good rebounder, but sometimes he gets a little bit. I don't want to say the word, but I'll go ahead. He gets a little bit lazy sometimes, right? As much as I hate to say this, he does get lazy sometimes, right? And with him being lazy, it hurts the Sixers at times. Now, I'm not even speaking on the playoffs, right? In the playoffs, he came off, he was still recovering from that surgical procedure, so he wasn't at 100%. And you could tell. I mean, sometimes, when he goes up for a rebound, he's not how he lands. You could tell that he's not trying to put a lot of weight on that knee, right? But I think having all this off time, right? He can definitely heal that knee up. He'll definitely come into the season much healthier than he was in the Olympics, and we should definitely expect him to be a very good rebounder, right? I'll suggest you give up a few scoring, give up a little bit of the scoring load for more defense, right? Give up some of the scoring load for more defense because we have better scorers on the team. I mean, PG could average 20. Right, he's averaged 20 for the last like what 6 or 7 seasons. So he's showing you that he's an elite scorer. Maxi could average 20, 20 plus. So he's showing you that he could also be an elite scorer. So the 30 points per game from Embiid, we don't necessarily need that because we have enough scoring right now, right? Embiid cannot say that I have to, I can't go 5 for 20 and win a game, right? Like he said in that on that podcast, right? You have scorers on this team, right? We have enough offense. So averaging 30 points per game, I don't think that would be necessary for us. If you see Embiid averaging like a 20, 25, 25, 26 or 27, and giving you 12 or 13 or maybe 14 rebounds, that would be great for us, right? If you can average 13 rebounds and PG averaged 6 rebounds last season, right? So PG 6 rebounds, you could expect him to give you the same amount of rebounds or maybe even maybe a little bit less, right? And Caleb Martin, who's going to be playing the power forward position, who I'll speak on that in a few seconds, but yeah, I want to see Embiid give us like 26 points and 12 or 13 rebounds, and that's a solid season. That's all NBA caliber. We see Jokic average 26 and 13, and he makes first team All NBA. And it's not just his numbers, his impact on the game. And Embiid definitely impacts the Sixers offensively and defensively. So I want to see Embiid, right, in that, 25, 26, right? And Maxi could give you 22, PG between 18 and 22 in that range. 18 points and 22 points, right in that range. Right, that's what we want to see. And then we want to see elite defense. So players are going to have to sacrifice. PG, you're going to have to sacrifice as well. Now, I mean, I don't think PG doesn't have an issue sacrificing, right? I mean, he said on camera that this is Kawhi's team. I'm the second best player, or I'm the second option, whatever. I forgot his exact words, but he was trying to make a point that Kawhi Leonard is the best player on the team, and then I'm next. So he's shown us that he can sacrifice when necessary. He can sacrifice if he needs to. So I don't have it. I don't even have any issues with PG sacrificing this season. Right? He doesn't have an ego. So I think he's gonna do exactly it. And Tyrese Maxey might have to sacrifice. And what I mean by might have to sacrifice is, sometimes you see Maxey, he wants to bring the ball up the floor almost every single time. You on this team right here, sometimes you may not even have to bring the ball up the floor because guys could be grab and go guys. So when PG gets it off the rebound, he can push the ball up the floor. When what you call it? When Caleb gets the rebound, he can push it up the floor, right? When PG gets the rebound, Kelly Oubre, right? When you push it up the floor, you get into the half court, and then we run the normal flip action, fake flip action, and then we get into whatever sets that we want to get into. So Max is going to have to sacrifice as well. Now, I don't have the stats right here in front of me. I don't know how many. I think Maxi averaged. I mean, attempted. I think 6 shots a game last season. Let me just look it up real quick. I know for a fact he averaged 25. Well, let me say 26 because it was 25.9. So yeah, he averaged 20 shots a game. So he took 20 shots. So maybe that 20 shots will have to maybe you will have to reduce it a little bit, right? Maybe you will have to reduce it a little bit and focus on doing other stuff, right? Maybe focus on being a better passer, being a better playmaker. Now I think he developed or he how do I even put this? His playmaking was a lot better last season, right? But I mean, the previous season we had Ben Simmons and we had James Harden, so he didn't really have to be a playmaker as much, right? But we saw his assists, double. I think the season prior he averaged 3.5 assists, and then last season he averaged 6.2. So his playmaking, he's getting better. And Maxi's not, he's not your typical playmaker. But you would definitely want him to get better in that department, right? Want him to be a better passer, better playmaker, and look to get in our offenses early, and get into early offense as quickly as possible, and not wait for the teams to get their defense set every single time. So right, so maybe that Maxi will have to sacrifice in that in that department. Take less shots, focus more on being a facilitator. Now we're not saying that don't score the basketball because that's what you do best. You're one of the best 3-point shooters in the league percentage wise. I think he's top 5. He was definitely top 5 in 3-point percentage. No, he wasn't. Yeah, I almost capped right there, but he wasn't. I think catch and shoot threes, that's where he was top 5. But overall percentages, he was not top 5. I think guys had better 3-point percentages than he did. Even though he's above league average, right? 37, he was at 37%. But he had to increase the amount of threes he shot, right? When he shot 6.2 threes, he was shooting 43% from the 3-point line. But last season, he averaged 8 threes a game. And, with volume, your percentages they might likely go down a little bit. So, I'm not even mad at that, right? You can't be mad at that. Embiid is an interesting one. He should be the best player every series he's in. Yeah, that's true. I absolutely agree with that. Um, yeah, he's the best player every series. He has to be the best player in that series. I absolutely agree, especially in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, 100%, 100%. But then again, I mean, I think if we have if PG has a favorable matchup, you would want PG to be more aggressive. If Maxi has a favorable matchup, you want him to be more aggressive. Even though the big fella has to eat, you got to feed him in the post. You got to get him the ball you got to get him the ball on the box on the nail because that's where he likes to operate at, right? And give him all that space and spread the floor out for him so he could find open shooters when he gets double teamed or triple teamed or whatever. So yeah, Maxi's gonna have to. I was about to say struggle, but Maxi's gonna have to sacrifice as well, right? He's gonna have to sacrifice. Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre, Eric Gordon, all the other players. I mean, I don't think Andre Drummond is gonna have to sacrifice anything. I mean, you're coming off the bench. All you got to do is be a better, hold down the paint, make sure the Sixers don't get out rebounded. Right, make sure we don't get out rebounded. Make sure they don't feast in the paint while you're in there. While Embiid is getting the rest, right? That would be his role. That's what his role is going to be. And in games that maybe Embiid might be out for load management or whatever, if Drummond is going to be the starter, so you'd want him to give you, a little bit more scoring. I mean, He's a glass cleaner, so you can definitely expect him to get a few offensive rebounds and give you some scoring, right? I mean, when he played for the Bulls last year, he had games where he was going off, right? He had games where he was going off, and I remember he went off on the cat. He was going off on the Cavs, on the Cleveland Cavaliers. That I went on Twitter Sports Live, and I was calling him Drumberlin because he had like 25 or 26 rebounds, something crazy like that. So yeah, we can see him, and I think he had like 18, 19 points to go with that 25 rebounds. So Drummond is going to have to sacrifice as well. And then when you get the chance to start, you can do what you do best. But yeah, I think everybody's going to have to sacrifice. And the journey, like I said, the journey to winning a championship, it takes a lot. It takes discipline. Guys have to sacrifice, right? Because I mean, the Boston Celtics who won the championship this past season, they had to sacrifice, right? They had to sacrifice, and it all worked out for them. And guess what? They're NBA champions. So that was a successful season for them. Even though they had, some stimulus packages on the way to the finals, they still sacrificed, and guess what? They were disciplined throughout the course of the regular season. They did what they were supposed to do, and they ended up winning the NBA championship. So I think the Sixers, if we want to be successful, we have to do the same thing, right? They're going to have to do the same thing. And I'll just reiterate my points again. I mean, my first point was health, right? What it takes. They have to be healthy, right? They have to be healthy. They have to be healthy. The coaching staff has to trust their players. The teammates have to trust their teammates. I mean, guys have to trust their teammates. Embiid, you gotta trust your teammates. PG, you gotta trust your teammates. Stuff like that. Players have to buy in. They have to buy into the Nick Nurse's system. Players have to step up in big moments, and players have to sacrifice in order for this thing to be a success. And those are my points. I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to join the live, but let me just drop the link. Whoever wants to get on the show, the link is in the chat. You can hit the link, and I'll bring you up. I mean, BJ, I don't know if you're still on. If you want to come in and give your thoughts on this, I would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, this will be a great. This season will be very, very interesting, especially for the Sixers. As I went through the schedule. I didn't go through everything, but I think I covered a good portion of it. It's an 82 game schedule. Now, one thing, NBA, please don't give the Sixers that horrible in-season tournament court from last season. That was so terrible. That was so terrible. I couldn't even. Sometimes watching the games, you couldn't even concentrate on the games because the court was just so terrible. Let me see if I can get. Let me see if I can get a picture of the court, the course that the Sixers played on, and y'all would know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so nah, come on, okay. Yeah, look at this right here. This is so terrible. I couldn't even, sometimes watching the in-season tournament, you couldn't even concentrate because the course is just so terrible, and it hurts your eyes. Like, look at this. This is so terrible, and they have to do something about it. We cannot have this court this season. It would be terrible. And this, if you're watching it on full screen, it's very terrible, especially as the game is unfolding. It's so terrible. You can't even focus, right? You can't even focus on the game, and then you'll be staring at the court. And the next thing you know, A lot of things happen that you didn't even catch. So the NBA got to do something. They got to do something about this, right? They have to take care of this. But yeah, I'm gonna be here for a few more minutes. If anybody ain't joined, then I'll probably shut it down. But yeah, I think I hit on almost all my points. Yeah, I had something that I wanted to talk about as well. Yeah, as y'all come in, hit the like button. Um, smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel too. It's DFJ Hoops. Yeah. So this court is so terrible. I don't want to see this season. When we play the Hornets, I don't want to see it. I don't know if they I don't know if they released pictures of what the courts are gonna look like. But yeah, this right here is terrible. This is terrible. We can't have this. But yeah, I dropped the link in case any of y'all want to come in. The link is right down there. So the realist, I don't know if you're still on. You can hit the link and you give me your thoughts. Yeah, but if not, I just probably close it out and we'll have a show on Monday. Another great show on Monday. Yeah. Yes, sir. The link is in the chat. If you wanna join the show, you can hit the link. I'll bring you on in. Yeah. If you disagree with me, you can let me know what exactly you disagree on, and we can talk about it. Yep. But if not, yeah, I'm gonna just close out and get ready for Monday for the show on Monday. Yeah, this was a great it's a great show. I was able to give my thoughts. I hadn't been live in a minute, so yeah, I had to after the Jason Tatum show. I didn't say anything. I didn't do any shows, so I had to do this. I had to get this out the way. Yeah, but yeah, I guess I gotta close out because everybody busy. But yeah, man, I appreciate each and every person that tuned in. Shout out to the realist. Shout out to Mike Sports Vibes. If y'all haven't subbed to his channel, y'all should definitely check him out. He's a Sixers. I think he's everything Philly, but the Eagles. He's a Minnesota Vikings fan. So, y'all should definitely check out his channel, Minnesota Vikings, and everything Sixers. The Phillies, the Sixers. Yeah. So shout out to Mike Sports Vibes. Shout out to the Pull Up Basketball Podcast as well. Appreciate the love. I appreciate the support from each and every one of y'all. Yeah, shout out to Thomas as well. Thomas Talented. Yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to Thomas. But yeah, I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover. Um, appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace and love.